Valentine's Day had arrived, and I was determined to make it unforgettable for Mia. As a chef, I had spent days meticulously planning the menu, ensuring that every dish was a symphony of flavors and textures. The table was set with care, adorned with candles flickering in the soft glow of the evening. Maya's going to love this, I muttered to myself as I arranged the final touches, a nervous excitement bubbling in my chest. Just make sure you don't burn anything, came a teasing voice from behind me. Turned to see Leo, Maya's adventurous best friend, leaning against the kitchen doorway with a smirk playing on his lips. I'll have you know, I'm a culinary genius, I replied with mock offense, wiping my hands on a kitchen towel. Leo chuckled, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Sure you are, Harry. Just don't forget the wine. That's the key to any successful romantic dinner. Rolled my eyes, but there was a warmth in my chest at the banter. Leo had become like a brother to me, and his approval meant almost as much as Maya's. Don't worry, I've got the wine covered, I assured him, flashing a confident grin. As Leo left to get ready for their hike, I took a moment to survey my handiwork. Everything was perfect, just as I had imagined. All that was left was for Maya to come home, and then our Valentine's Day celebration could truly begin. Little did I know, that was just the beginning of a nightmarish ordeal I could never have anticipated. With each passing minute, the anticipation of Maya's return turned into a gnawing anxiety that clawed at my insides. I checked my phone repeatedly, hoping for a message or a call that would ease my growing concern, but there was nothing. The silence in our apartment felt suffocating, broken only by the ticking of the clock on the wall. I paced back and forth, the weight of worry pressing down on me like a leaden blanket. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind outside, sent my heart racing as I waited for the sound of the door opening, and Maya's familiar voice calling out to me. She's probably just lost track of time. Muttered to myself, trying to push away the creeping doubts that threatened to consume me. But as the sky outside darkened, and still there was no sign of Mia, my rationalizations began to falter. Leo had promised they would be back before sunset, yet here I was, alone and increasingly frantic. I sank onto the couch, running a hand through my hair in frustration. Where are you, Mia? Whispered into the empty room, the words heavy with worry. The sound of a key turning in the lock jolted me upright, hope flooding back into my veins. But as the door swung open, revealing not Maya, but Leo, the knot of anxiety in my stomach tightened. Leo's face was etched with concern as he stepped inside, his usually jovial demeanor replaced by a somber expression. Harry, we need to talk, he said gravely, his words hanging in the air like a dark cloud. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. What's wrong? I asked, the words barely more than a whisper. Leo hesitated for a moment, his gaze searching mine. It's Mia, he finally said, his voice heavy with worry. She's not back yet. When Maya finally stumbled through the door, relief flooded through me, quickly replaced by a surge of concern as I took in her disheveled appearance. Her normally radiant smile was absent, replaced by a vacant expression that sent a shiver down my spine. Maya, thank goodness you're okay, I said, rushing to her side and wrapping her in a tight embrace. But as I held her, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Maya's body felt tense and rigid against mine, her breath coming in short, uneven gasps. Pulled back slightly, searching her face for any sign of what had happened out on the trail. Maya, what happened? Asked, my voice filled with worry. She blinked slowly, as if trying to focus on me through a haze. I don't know, she replied, her voice distant and hollow. I don't remember. The words sent a chill down my spine, and I tightened my grip on her hand, desperate for some sign that she was okay. But as I looked into her eyes, I saw nothing but emptiness staring back at me. Leo hovered nearby, his expression mirroring my own concern. Maybe she just needs some rest, he suggested, though his voice lacked conviction. I nodded, guiding Maya gently towards the couch. But even as she sank into the cushions, her gaze remained distant, as if she were 1,000 miles away. As I watched her, a sense of unease settled over me like a suffocating blanket. Whatever had happened out on that hike had left its mark on Mia, and I couldn't shake the feeling that things were only going to get worse from here. The hours dragged on, and Maya's condition only seemed to worsen. She sat on the couch, her body tense and rigid, as if she were trapped in some invisible vice. Her eyes darted around the room, unfocused and distant, as though she were seeing things that weren't there. Maya, sweetheart, are you okay? Asked, my voice filled with concern as I sat beside her, gently taking her hand in mine. She turned to me, but her gaze seemed to pass right through me, as if I were nothing more than a ghost. I don't know, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Leo hovered nearby, his brow furrowed in worry. Maybe we should call a doctor, he suggested, his voice tinged with concern. I shook my head. Not a fear tightening in my chest. No, it's not like she's physically hurt, I replied, though even as I said the words, I knew they were only half true. Whatever was happening to Maya went far beyond mere physical injury. As if on cue, Maya's body contorted in a way that sent a shiver down my spine. Her limbs twisted and jerked in unnatural angles, as though she were being pulled in a dozen different directions at once. I reached out to steady her, but she pushed me away with a strength that belied her slender frame. Maya, what's happening? Asked, my voice tinged with desperation. But she didn't answer. Instead, she began to speak in a language I didn't recognize, her words guttural and twisted. It was as if some otherworldly force had taken hold of her, speaking through her in a voice that sent a chill down my spine. Turned to Leo, my eyes wide with fear. We need to do something, I said, my voice trembling. But Leo could only watch in horror as Maya's body continued to convulse, a silent witness to the unfolding nightmare that had taken hold of our lives. As the night wore on, our apartment became a battleground for forces beyond our comprehension. Shadows danced along the walls, twisting and contorting in unnatural shapes, while a chill settled over the room like a heavy fog. I watched in horror as Maya became the epicenter of the chaos, her once gentle presence now radiating a malevolent energy that seemed to seep into every corner of our home. Maya, please, you have to fight this, I pleaded, my voice trembling with desperation as I reached out to her. But she remained unresponsive, lost in a darkness that seemed to consume her from within. Her eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and her movements were jerky and erratic, as though she were a puppet being controlled by some unseen force. Leo stood beside me, his expression grim as he watched the scene unfold. What do we do? He asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. I shook my head, my mind racing with fear and uncertainty. I don't know, admitted, the weight of helplessness pressing down on me like a leaden blanket. As if in response to my words, the air around us grew thick with tension, a palpable sense of dread settling over the room like a heavy shroud. Objects began to levitate off the ground, swirling around us in a chaotic frenzy, while the temperature plummeted to near freezing. We have to get her out of here, Leo said, his voice urgent as he moved to help me lift Maya from the couch. But as we reached for her, a guttural voice filled the room, sending a shiver down my spine. You cannot save her, it said, its words dripping with malice. She is mine now. Turned to face the source of the voice, my heart pounding in my chest. Who are you? I demanded, though I already knew the answer. The entity that had taken hold of Maya laughed, a sound that chilled me to the bone. I am beyond your comprehension, it said, its voice echoing in the darkness. And soon you'll be too. With a sense of dread sinking like a stone in my stomach, I realized that our nightmare was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. As the malevolent entity continued to taunt us, I felt a surge of anger rising within me, pushing back against the overwhelming fear that threatened to consume me. I squared my shoulders, determination flashing in my eyes as I faced off against the unseen force that had taken hold of Mia. "You can't have her," I said, my voice firm despite the tremor of uncertainty that lingered beneath the surface. "She belongs with me." The entity laughed, a sound that seemed to reverberate through the very fabric of our reality. "Foolish mortal," it sneered, its voice dripping with contempt. "You cannot stop what has already begun." But I refused to back down. Clenching my fists, I took a step forward, my gaze locked with the swirling darkness that surrounded us. "I won't let you destroy her," I vowed, my words ringing out with a fierce determination that surprised even me. Leo stood by my side, his expression grim but resolute. "We're not giving up on her," he said, his voice steady despite the fear that lingered in his eyes. "We'll fight this together." I nodded, grateful for his unwavering support. Together, we faced the entity head-on, our wills united in a desperate bid to save Maya from the darkness that threatened to consume her. But as the night wore on, and the entity's power grew stronger, I began to doubt whether we stood a chance. It mocked our efforts, twisting our words and thoughts against us with a cruel efficiency that left me reeling. "Weak," it hissed, its voice a whisper in the darkness. "You are nothing compared to me." I gritted my teeth, pushing back against the doubt that threatened to overwhelm me. "We'll see about that," I said, my voice filled with a quiet resolve. And with that, the battle of wills began in earnest, a clash of light against darkness that would determine the fate of not just Mia, but all of us. As the night dragged on, the truth became impossible to ignore. Leo was gone, consumed by the malevolent entity that had taken hold of Mia. The realization hit me like a sledgehammer, driving home the horrifying reality of our situation. I stared at the empty space where Leo had stood just moments before, a sense of loss and despair washing over me like a tidal wave. He had been my friend, my confidant, and now he was nothing more than a memory, swallowed up by the darkness that surrounded us. "Maya, Leo," I whispered, my voice choked with grief. But there was no time to mourn. The entity still lurked in the shadows, its presence a constant reminder of the danger that we faced. Turned to Mia, my heart heavy with the knowledge of what I had to do. "Maya, listen to me," I said, my voice steady despite the fear that churned in my stomach. "You have to fight this. You have to come back to me." Maya blinked slowly, her gaze unfocused as she struggled to break free from the entity's grip. "I'm trying," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the chaos that surrounded us. I reached out to her, taking her hand in mine and squeezing it tightly. "You can do this," I said, my voice filled with conviction. "I believe in you." But even as I spoke the words, I knew that our battle was far from over. The entity still lurked in the shadows, its presence a constant threat to everything that we held dear. "We have to find a way to banish it," Leo's voice echoed in my mind, a reminder of the promise that we had made to each other before he was taken from us. And so, with a sense of determination burning in my chest, I prepared to face the unthinkable. Armed with nothing but my love for Maya and a desperate hope for a better future, I squared my shoulders and prepared to confront the darkness head-on. With Leo lost and Maya still teetering on the brink of the abyss, I knew that the time for hesitation had passed. The entity that had consumed Leo and threatened to consume Maya as well had to be stopped, no matter the cost. "Maya, I need you to listen to me," I said, my voice steady despite the fear that gnawed at the edges of my resolve. "We have to fight back. We have to banish this thing before it's too late." Maya nodded slowly, her eyes filled with a flicker of determination amidst the haze of darkness that surrounded her. "I'll try," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. Together, we stood on the precipice of the unknown, ready to confront the darkness that threatened to engulf us. With each step forward, The air grew heavier, the oppressive weight of the entity's presence bearing down on us like a suffocating blanket. But I refused to be intimidated. Clenching my fists, I squared my shoulders and faced the darkness head-on. My gaze locked with the swirling mass of shadows that loomed before us. "You have no power here," I declared, my voice ringing out with a quiet authority that surprised even me. "We will not be afraid of you any longer." The entity laughed, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You cannot defeat me," it sneered, its voice echoing in the darkness. "I am eternal," but I refused to back down. Drawing on every ounce of strength that remained within me, I reached out to Mia, taking her hand in mine and squeezing it tightly. "We can do this," I said, my voice filled with a quiet confidence that belied the fear that still lingered in the depths of my soul. "Together, we can banish this thing and reclaim our lives." And with that, we stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever horrors awaited us on the other side. It was a battle that we couldn't afford to lose. A fight for our very souls in a world consumed by darkness. But as long as we had each other, I knew that we stood a chance. The battle against the malevolent entity had left our apartment in shambles. The aftermath of our confrontation evident in the wreckage that surrounded us. But as the dust settled and the echoes of our struggle faded into the night, a sense of relief washed over me like a tidal wave. Maya stood beside me, her hand clasped tightly in mine as we surveyed the damage that had been wrought upon our home. The walls were scorched, the furniture overturned, but amidst the chaos, there was a sense of quiet victory that filled the air. "We did it," Maya said, her voice soft but filled with awe. "We actually did it." I nodded, a sense of gratitude swelling in my chest as I looked at her. "We couldn't have done it without you," I said, my voice filled with genuine admiration. Maya smiled, her eyes shining with a light that seemed to banish the darkness that had threatened to consume her. "I'm just glad it's over," she said, her voice tinged with relief. But even as we stood amidst the wreckage of our home, I couldn't shake the feeling that our ordeal was far from over. The scars of that Valentine's night ran deep, leaving us both grappling with the aftermath of the horrors that we had witnessed. "We'll get through this together," I said, my voice filled with determination. "No matter what comes our way, we'll face it together." And as we stood there, hand in hand, I knew that no matter what the future held, as long as we had each other, we would be able to weather any storm. For love, I had learned, was the most powerful force of all, capable of overcoming even the darkest of nightmares.